Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulil amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So inshallah today, after the exam, we'll continue with the next 25 ayahs. Today we'll do the next 5. Some of these ayahs are very long, like we've experienced in the past, so I want to focus on the words that we haven't covered before. And inshallah, you can, on your own, review the words that we already covered. So this is so just as a recap, what we've been discussing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the likeness of kafirin, comparing them to, for example, the thunder, the heavy downpour, and they put their ears and their fingertips in their ear in fear of death. And then when it's lighted, they walk. As soon as it becomes dark, they stop. And again, that whole the whole section of that ruku is very tafsir heavy. So I encourage you to go to a tafsir and see the actual meaning behind those things. And then the next ruku started, Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum walladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. So it's talking. First, we describe the believer, describe kafirin, describe munafiqeen. Now, it's talking to all mankind. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created you. And in the last ayah we did before this, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّةً. Bashir, give glad tidings to الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ, that for them, Jannah, paradise. And then it describes the paradise. Every time they're given fruits and mutashabiha, one similar to it will be given. So, وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ.
Why does Allah have two shaddas?
Here, the Allah by mistake has two shaddas because the text has a shadda and then Microsoft Word adds a shadda every time it sees Allah. So if you type alif lam lam ha in Microsoft Word, puts a shadda on it. You can delete one of them. It's hard to delete one of them actually. But inshallah I'll try for next time. So you shouldn't have an extra shadda there. But so inna, like we said, is indeed. And again we've talked about anna. I just mentioned in the last ayah, Bashir alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati anna lahum. So anna would be that. That. Inna is indeed. We discussed or even if you didn't discuss it right now, I'll keep it in the back of your mind as an and in. Not all of these are grammatically related, but I just put them all here because they sound very similar. Inna, anna, in, and an. So here, just don't get confused between them. Usually when you start with the word, it's usually going to be indeed, because it's, declarative sentence, you're giving emphasis. Indeed, such and such a thing. Usually the other ones are in a dependent clause or a secondary clause. So that's something that you have. Inna Allah la yastahi. So this is a new word, but it's a word that we have exposure to the root already. Hayya. So yastahi, the normal meaning of hayya is something like life or living. But hayya also can mean modesty, right? As we know, haya also means modesty. So yastahi is to shy away from or be ashamed of. So this is indeed Allah not la yastahi. This was without the la, he shy away from doing something. So this is not, right? So Allah does not shy away from an yadriba. This is right here. An yadriba. This is the other alif noon combination. This means two. Okay, it's always used with the verb coming after it. An yadriba. It's like setting up a dependent clause with the verb coming after. So Allah does not shy away from what? To do such and such a thing. So to yadriba masal. Daraba is probably a new word also. Daraba literally means to strike. Daraba mathalan is to strike an example. And we use that phrase in English also. He struck an example using this and this simile or metaphor, whatever. So, ay yadriba mathalan is he strikes Masalan is example. This ma is for almost eloquence purposes. It's like ma az-ziyada. It's extra ma. In the tafsir you can see that sometimes it means even. So Allah does not shy away from striking an example, even a mosquito. Ba'uda is mosquito. So it's like even such a small example Allah does not shy away from. And Ibn Kathir says this is the response to kafirin. We saw the parables that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave, right, in the previous ayah. He gave the example of lightning, he gave example of this. And they said, oh, how is somebody who is Allah going to use the creation to strike example? And other places in the Quran, Allah strikes an example with fly, dhubab, ba'uda, mosquito, ankabut, spider. So these creatures that Arabs think are, useless, like minuscule. So how is it befitting the greatness of Allah to strike an example, or not mosquito, to strike an example of a mosquito, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's creation, why should he shy? He doesn't shy away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not shy away from striking an example of mosquito. فَمَا فَوْقَهَا, or what is above it. فَوْقَهَا is above it, and this is feminine. فَمَا, so what? So what above it? And this is a confusing kind of combination of words, because literally it doesn't mean what you think it means. But it's used in ahadith and stuff. So Prophet ﷺ, when he said, for example, the smallest thing that befalls a believer in hardship, even if it's like the pricking of a thorn or something more, Allah gives reward to the believer, and or takes away a bad deed. So the same فَمَا فَوْقَهَا has used it. So even the pricking of the shawka, or فَمَا فَوْقَهَا, or anything more. So it means ba'uda, the smallest mosquito, or anything more than mosquito. فَمَا فَوْقَهَا. So that's the end of this sentence, if you're translating in English. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَيَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ. Most of this you should be able to recognize by now. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, look, they're complaining about these examples. But there are two types of people who will receive these examples. When you read this in the Quran, there will be two types of people. First will be الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Amma is a setup for either or. Okay? So amma, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى, for example. So regarding the people who are in rebellion. وَآثَرُ الْحَيَاةِ. And then a few ayahs later, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. So it's setting up into categories. So there are going to be two sets of people. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. So as for, you can kind of say that as for these such and such people versus as for such and such people. As for الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who believe, فَيَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ. They know, أَنَّهُ, that, again this one, so we're catching all these words here. أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ, that it is the truth from their Rabb. So when they see the example, they don't say, oh, this is such a small example, not befitting. When it comes in the Quran, they know it's the truth from Allah, from Rabbihim. And to continue the same ayah, وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفْرُوا, but those who reject. Basically, before they even read the Quran, they were rejecting. Or before they read these ayah, they had some disease in their heart, or they just rejected Islam. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفْرُوا فَيَقُولُونَ, they are the ones who say, مَاذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا مَثَلًا. What does Allah want with this example? What is Allah's intent with this example? Arada, yuridu. Okay, so we have for example, yuridun al-yutfiu nur Allah. Yurid is a very common word in the Quran. Arada in the past tense is not so common. It's the same thing. Yurid is the present tense, arada is the past tense. So he wanted. This is the meaning. He wanted. Okay? Arada. What does, and it's referred, Allah is the subject. So what is Allah wanted with this example? By giving this example, what is the meaning? Or we can't understand.
So should we, when we say arada, because the reason why he is coming, because arada Allah.
Yeah.
If I really literally translate arada, so it is basically wanted.
It's the thing about this. So when I translate arada, I'm trying to also give the conjugation of the verb, right? Because it's not wanted can be he wanted, she wanted, it wanted, you wanted, and each one of them would have this arada, aradat, aradna, arad. So aradu, they're all those things. So to differentiate between those, I'm going to say he wanted it, or depending on the context, it could be also it, masculine, wanted. This is a slightly confusing point because it depends on where you look, right? If you're looking at word-to-word translation, most any book they'll put it like this. It's word to word to word. If you look at the word arada in isolation, you say masculine third person wanted. So, and when I ask you to translate, you kind of have to look at the subject. Is it an object or animal or something, or is it a person, or is it Allah? Or who is the subject? So then you choose between it wanted or he wanted. That's how it works. So, aradallahu. But yeah, when you translate in a sentence in English, it's Allah wanted. You don't put the he again. That's the confusing point actually. For many, when we study verbs, we have to realize that you just by the verb you won't know where the subject is. Sometimes the subject is before, sometimes it's after. So you look at the verb, you see is it masculine, feminine, what this or that, plural, singular, then you figure out what the subject is. So what is Allah bihada with this mathala? Example. Yudillu bihi kathira. He leads to misguidance. Bihi with it kathira. Many. وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا, and he guides with the same example, bihi kathira, many. وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ, and not, this is the ma of not. Again, when we talk about ma, it has 6 or 7 different things. We saw ma ziyada, ma that's extraneous in the past one, right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَحِي أَن يَضْرِبَ مَثَلًا مَا بَعُوضًا. That was just almost extraneous. فَمَا فَوْقَهَا, or what. So we have the mawsul, the relative pronoun. Here we have not. Okay? And then we'll continue to see more and more uses of ma. So not. وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ, and not is he misguides. Bihi illa al-fasiqin, except those who are already fasiq. Fasiqin is the people who transgress, or what is the word?
Disobey.
So one of the things that people say about fasiq, like the original root of fasiq comes from the date. When it's fasaqat, a date, it means it came out of its skin. What the ripening probably the ripening process. Okay, or for example, another interesting example, the rat is called like fusayqa, meaning it comes out of the hole and does mischief like that. So it's coming out to do mischief. Okay, so there's a good word that can somebody check the translation? Like you can have your bag.
Those who cross limits.
Cross limits, exactly. Those who cross limits. Why is it crossing limit? Because again, that date crossed a limit, the skin of the date, or the mouse or rat is crossing its entrance of den, for example. It goes out to do these evil things. Okay. You know the mouse inside. If the mouse lives in a house, it lives in the wall, right? In a certain place.
He heard instead of then he heard death.
Oh, death. Okay, no. So I mean, it's important to have an idea of specific. Okay, this is important. Kafirin, fasiqin, munafiqin, all these refer to the same sort of people. But it's important to have that specific meaning. Why is fasiqin being used as opposed to kafirin? You know, if you just say ones who do wrong, for example, there could be khatiin, there could be, ones who make mistakes, but there's separate words used. Fasiqin, crossing, specifically one who's crossing limits. And again, when you have the alif here as the second letter, always start with ones who, right? Ones who, ones masculine who, if you want to complete it, cross limits. Again, in your answers, if you don't want to be confused, don't put the masculine feminine, but just know what it is. Is it masculine, feminine? Just as a, another thing that you can keep in mind, the feminine version of this is fasiqat, fasiqun, fasiqin. And we'll learn the difference between fasiqun and fasiqin. I didn't forget. I know you asked that before. No, these are not referring to dates. These are just referring to people. Ones who transgress. Okay, fasiq is like a person. A person basically in the same category as kafir, same category as, So people who are evil, there are multiple words that you use to describe them, that are used in the Quran. Fasiq is one who crosses limits. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set up limits by the Sharia, right? You can't do this, you have to read Salah. You can't steal money, for example. So if you stole money, you're crossing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's limits. You can't cheat. If you cheat, you cross Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's limits. Okay, so that it's referring to humans here. But I was just trying to give an analogy. Okay? Any more questions? So there was one more question? No. Okay. So yanquduna is also another new word. Yanquduna, ahdallah, is to break Allah's covenant. Ahdallah. I don't know if we had ahd before, but covenant. I don't want specifically. I use covenant because I save promise for wa'd. Okay, so that's just a matter of choice.
Covenant is basically like an agreement.
Agreement, exactly. It's more formalized maybe. Min ba'di mithaqihi. It's ratification. Okay, it's ratification. So it's kind of like the constitution almost. From wasaqa. And then look, this is a good example of attached pronoun that signifies ownership, but it doesn't really seem like ownership, right? One thing is not really owning the other, but it's still ownership. What do I mean by that? So when you translate it, you can see that it means it's ratification. So it's actually ownership. So the ahad owns the ratification. Okay? So it's mithaq of the ahad. Mithaq of the, or mithaqihi. So don't get confused. It doesn't have to be ownership like my bag, haqibati or something. It can also be grammatical ownership.
So for this one, min badi, misaqihi. So both badi and misaqihi, both of them have kasra because of the preposition.
So bad, okay, why does these have kasra? Mithaq, you should know why that has a kasra. Mithaq has a kasra because before it is coming preposition. Okay, so we call, if you in prepositions section 2, you'll see bad in there.
Oh, okay. So bad is also preposition.
Yeah, bad. It's not technically a preposition. It's a ism zarf, right? But again, if you look in the book, it says we can treat ism zarf the same as a preposition because there's no difference in terms of grammatical content. It's just a label. So we just call it preposition because it's more than 2 letters. Sometimes they call it a ism because it's 3 full letters. Okay, that's. Badi, you can kind of say, okay, it's coming after a preposition also, that's why. But usually prepositions don't have. This is a good place to, actually we'll talk about this in next week or the week after, when we talk about ownership again, in detail. We only talked about ownership when it comes with the pronoun. But when we talk about it in detail, we'll see all the grammar related to it. Usually if a preposition comes after another preposition, or a ism zarf comes after a preposition, it has a dhamma. Min ba'du. It has a kasra if there's another noun coming after that. Okay, so if you say before, I woke up before dawn, it would take a kasra. But I just woke up before, and you don't specify anything after that, then you keep it a dhamma. So it only takes a kasra when you have these kind of constructions.
Then for that one, there is no subject to it. You see, I just woke up
before. Yeah, exactly. So, but we'll discuss it. So you don't worry if I'm skimming over it very quickly. So yeah, but this one we should know. We should know why mithaq has a kasra. Mithaq has a kasra because the preposition is going before. وَيَقْطَعُونَ, and they cut. Qata'a is to cut. They cut. They masculine cut. So there are a few new words here in a row. So bear with the ayah. Yeah, they break. They masculine break. But they break ahad Allah min ba'di mithaqi, after its ratification. وَيَقْطَعُونَ, and they cut. Ma amara Allah. Again, this is He commanded. Okay? Amar, everyone knows hopefully. Amar means command. Okay? Amr is a command. It's similar to Urdu word perhaps. And again, Allah is the subject, but we just say He commanded. Just to, what is the meaning of this word by itself? So what Allah commanded, with it, ayyusal, to be joined. So this is a little bit confusing. وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن means they cut what Allah has commanded for it to be joined. So the thing that Allah, for example, in Ibn Kathir they say, some people say that the thing that should be joined are kinship ties. Okay, so sometimes in societies you break off ties with your parents or your brother, cousin, uncle, whoever. So that's a huge sin in Islam, to break off ties with family. So one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, you have to keep together, are ties of kinship. But they cut. يَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ. This is passive. يُوصَلَ, to be joined. So it be joined. Okay. So here's the exact translation. It masculine, be joined. Okay. So for wasala, the normal non-passive would be yasilu. Yasilu would be more continued. Yusilu would be to join something forcefully. Okay, but the important thing is the passive is this fatha. The fatha in the middle on the second letter of the root will tell you, along with the dhamma here, that it's passive in the present tense. Okay. Yusala wa yufsiduna fil ard, and they spread mischief. They do fasad fil ard. I think we had yufsidun before, so I'm not going to write down. They masculine spread mischief. Fil ard, in the earth. Ulaika, those, humul, they are al-khasirun. This is a new word, but it's not too difficult because I think we're familiar with it. Khasara is to lose. So khasirun, ones who lose. You can write losers also, but again, I would prefer, if you don't want to get it wrong, you should write. It's a good practice, I think. Even if you, without, if you didn't have the system of grading, it's good practice to know, because khasirun, everyone knows losers. Kafirun, disbelievers. Okay, but do you recognize the pattern that after there's an alif on the second letter? That's why it's ism fa'il. Ism fa'il, which we'll discuss also inshallah. Okay, ones who lose. Ones who lose. Don't spell it with two O's, otherwise again you'll get it wrong.
You will lose too.
You will lose too.
So, but I think the other one I have done in R3 and the one exercise which I have done, like those who. So is that right on?
Those who is. See, the thing about I was thinking about adding those who to the right answers, but I prefer ones who, because those who we use for alladina.
Yeah, those.
So how would you distinguish between alladina, yakhsirun, for example, yakhsirun, versus khasirun? So just to keep as much distinction as we can between the words, I would prefer ones who instead of those who, because I actually thought, it's very unfair if you don't accept those who. But then I said, if you alladina plus the verb would mean the same thing as khasirun. So just to keep that distinction, I put it's very nitpicky, and it also helps the grading system.
The khasirun is ones who lose. So ones who are losers may not be right there.
Those who are losers will make sense. Those who are losers. Ones who are losers doesn't make any sense.
Ones who will lose, things like all the.
Yeah, I would say keep it as just use the root letters.
Okay.
And put ones who in front of it. Ones who disbelieve, ones who lose, ones who believe, ones who have success. So sometimes you have to have two words after that. Ones who have success. But have is still the simplest form. It's not ones who are having success, ones who need success. Just as simple as possible.
Ones who have success or ones who are successful.
Yeah, both of those will be acceptable. Both of those are acceptable. Okay, usually, I mean, I try again. If something you find is not accepting, just email. It takes me 5 seconds to change. Add one extra correct answer. Inshallah, it's not that big of a deal. But this one, I prefer not those who, because those who would be the exact translation for this. Those who. Okay. Like Ahmul Khasyu. Now, almost done, so don't fall asleep yet. Kaifa is an important word. Kaifa is an important word. Kaifa means how. It's a question word. How. So some of the question words we already discussed. Ma, meaning what, right? We have ma that means not. We have ma that means what, but not a question word. And now we have ma istifham, which means the ma is a question word. There's other words that you might know if you took Arabic before. Aina, Kaifa, Mata, Man. Oops, Man. Who. Okay, so all these are question words. We'll have, I think there's a whole chapter on question words in the grammar book. So we'll discuss them more in detail, but this is how. How. Kaifa takfuruna billahi. That you should all know. You disbelieve in Allah. Wa kuntum amwatan. And you were dead. Maut. From. Okay, and the singular would be mayyit, or sometimes in the Quran it's just mayt. Mayt. Okay, so amwat is a plural. Kuntum amwatan. You all were. This is you, masculine. All were, obviously, right? We discussed this before. Kuntum, because it's tum. Kunta would be singular. So amwat is plural. Kuntum amwatan. Fa'ahyakum. So he gave you life. So he gave you all masculine life. Okay? This is a tricky word because if you notice hayya, we had it in multiple contexts. We had it like the shy away. We had shy away. We had hayya in terms of live, and now we have give life. What's the difference between live and give life? Live is what me and you are doing, living. That is in the past tense, hayya. So it would be fahayya. And it cannot take an object. So you can't say fahayyakum, because you can't live somebody. You just live yourself, you are living. Ahyakum takes the object. I gave life, what? So he gave life to whom? Ahyakum, he gave life to you all. Okay? And I don't use to here, as you can see in the translation, because there's no ila. Just so I don't get confused. There's no ila. It's a direct object of ahya. Okay? So hayya, ahya are two different, same root but two different verbs. Okay? Thumma yumitukum, then he makes you die, or then. Again, this one is a tricky translation because we don't have a word for this in English. Again, there's a difference between mata, yamutu. Mata means he died. So this is present tense. Remember, this is past tense, ahyakum. This is present tense. Then he makes you all masculine, whatever, you all die. Okay? This is he gave you in the past. Just a technicality. But what I'm trying to say is, yamut would be he dies. Yumeet is he makes somebody die. You see the difference? Hayya is to live, ahya is to make somebody alive or give life. Yamutu, he dies. Yumeet, he makes to die, or he makes you all die. Yumitukum. Thumma yuhyikum. Again, then he makes you all alive, or he gives you life. Summa ilayhi turja'un. Then to him you all are returned, or will be returned. This is, again, there's no difference between future and present. So you all are returned. Okay? Question?
Yeah, I'm looking at this one here. Pretty much they have the same thing. فَأَحْيَاكُمْ is He gave
Life.
you all life. And Summa Yumitukum is also there comes like, He gave death.
Oh, He gave death.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much in English. It's the same.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's the exact same construction, same form. Just you change the root letter. It's actually make. Because in so many different, you can use this construction in many different root letters. Not just hayya and maut. There's many root letters that you can add a alif to it and He made such and such happen. So if you want, you can put this as gave, just to keep it consistent. But I think in English we don't say gave death. Gave life is
Makes sense.
it makes sense. Gave death doesn't. It's not really used. But if that's what it says, we can stick with that. Give.
What I was asking was
Yeah.
when you come to that one, like you say make, that was the reason why say because in English is we don't.
Yeah, I just
So
changed
are
it. The
there
reason.
any other thing in that word itself which is making
No. This is exactly the same construction as this word. In fact, I should say this one is make. This one also more is make. He makes you alive.
Right.
Okay, but there's an expression already in English for that. This one is
Okay,
awkward.
so
So if you want, here actually I'll probably accept makes alive. Okay, also. I will put this as an answer choice because really the meaning of that alif is make somebody do something. That's what the meaning.
That's where I'm trying, like in some way
Exactly.
that word which
Yeah.
tells.
So this alif here and the alif here is hidden, but the purpose of that is to make somebody do something. That's the
So
translation.
it is basically some kind of action. Going
Action, doing it on somebody else.
Okay.
That's why both of these have an object, right? So remember, if you have attached pronouns to a verb, it's the object. The verb is being applied on it, receiving the action of the verb. That's what we talked about. So this is receiving the action. Allah gave life, you all. He gave you all life, or He makes you all alive. Then He makes you all die. ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ. Again, the same thing in the present tense, present/future. Okay, so giving life or future gives life. ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. To Him you all are returned.
The alif in amwatan, why doesn't it have like the same thing like ahyakum is like alif?
Oh, that is a noun though. This is
That's
an
a
ism.
noun.
This is an ism. That's a good question. The plurals are hard to make a rule for. Some broken plurals there's mu'min, mu'minuna, kafir, kafiruna, munafiq, munafiquna. Those are easy. But then there's like, qalam, aqlam, which is kind of mayyit, amwat. There's different categories of plurals that they don't really follow a pattern very well. So this is a ism, right? This is a ism. This is a ism. This is a fi'l. This is ism also, again ism buniya. Okay, so this alif is for a different reason. It's just for the plurality. Okay, the alif there is for a grammatical reason. And don't worry, I'm saying a lot of things that we're going to discuss in the future. There's still 2 units of the booklet, so I'm discussing a lot of small points, but these we'll all discuss in the future. But I'm trying to discuss the things that will help you remember the word, right? Ahyakum is He makes you alive, not He is alive. Okay, He makes you alive. Yumitukum, He makes you die. Obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Hayyu la yamut. Allah does not die. So, Yumit is not He dies, it's He makes you die. Something else that. Yuhyikum is the same. Exact same as this, except one difference. Present tense. Okay? Exact same word. Without the fa. Obviously the fa means so. But the exact same word in the present tense. Isn't it? Okay. So two more ayahs inshallah. This one is an easy ayah. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Of all these words, the only one that might be new is jami'a, which means together or all together. Okay, so it's a kind of a hal. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create it? He created it just all together. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا or also it can mean like everything on the earth. Jamia is lakum, for you all. خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ istawa. We had thumma. I didn't focus on thumma too much, but we had in the last ayah too, about 2 times. This is the 3rd time. It means then. It's a very simple. This means then. So I did this, then I did that, or he did this, then he did that. ثُمَّ istawa ila sama. So istawa is one of those words that has many different meanings. Yastawi, for example, can be equal. So for example, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are they equal, those who know and those who don't know? هل يستوي
لا يستوي
هل يستوي الأعمى
والبصير هل يستوي الأعمى والبصير. Just the blind and the seer, are they equal? لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة. Not equal are أصحاب النار and أصحاب الجنة, the companions of the fire and the companions of Jannah. So that same word, istawa. It can also mean istawa, to settle or set on something yourself. It cannot mean rise over. So that's the one that most translation use when it's described. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes himself. Istawa ala, rose over. Ila sama. Okay? So rose over the heaven. So again, and some people just leave it as istawa. But so he rose over. So yeah, it's used in terms of arsh also. Istawa ala arsh. Istawa, he rose over. As-sama is the sky or the heaven, right? The sky. فَسَوَّاهُنَّ, so he shaped them. فَسَوَّاهُنَّ. And this is an interesting...
So it is like root word is sawaya.
Yeah, exactly. Sawaya. In fact, what I was just going to get to this, is the same root word as this. Same root word as istawa. So that's where you see the equal. Sawa means to make something in a proportional fashion. You fashion something proportionately. Okay? Sawa is to, like, it's not lumpy. It's not out of proportion. It's fashioned in equal proportions. So that's what sawa means, to make equal. In fact, one of the meanings of sawa is literally, you make something equal to something else. So sawa hunna is shape them in equal proportion. But you don't have to say all the equal proportion thing, you just say fashioned or shaped. He shaped them. Feminine. Sab'a samawat is 7 skies or 7 heavens.
One thing.
Yeah.
They said like, then he leveled smooth them.
Level.
So,
Again, both this root word letters itself, this combination sawaya, many different meanings for each type. Istawa has many meanings, sawa has many meanings. To make it easier on everybody, I'll try to put that one as one of the answer choices, and the one that comes in the book as one of the answer choices always. So inshallah, if you look at that and you type it in, it shouldn't be incorrect. So, what do you say? Smooth?
he
Leveled them.
Or
Okay.
smooth.
Or smooth. He smoothed them. Again, that's a good one because it shows the equality.
Yeah.
Sawa. We had this before actually. Sawa'un alayhim a'andartahum am lam tunzir. This is the first 5 ayahs.
So that way, at that time we say is make actually.
No, similar.
Similar,
Yeah.
equal, right?
Equal.
Sawa, same for them if you warn them or don't warn them. So here you see that equality again. If you say level them, okay? So that's a good word actually. Level them. So you can see the equality. Make equal. Making equal is to level it off. So wahunna sabar samawat, 7 skies. And we'll discuss how you put numbers in front of words, inshallah, in the future. وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٍ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ. We had this construction before. He is with everything knowledgeable, all-knowing. Okay. The last ayah. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the creation of human beings. Okay? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. And when your Lord said to the malaika or angels. Malak is singular. Malak, malaika. It's very confusing because like malak is like 3 small letters. Malaika are all of a sudden all these extra. You just have to memorize. Okay. So malak. Malak is both are male, but it's just how you make the plural. Okay, so this ta marbuta is a little bit confusing. Okay, and grammatically, some instances also feminine, but we'll see why. That's for a different reason. It's not because of ta marbuta. So malak is a single. Remember this. Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys. Malak is single, malaika is plural. A lot of people don't know that. Because there's difference between malak, malik, malik, for example. So remember, it's malak. Okay. Inni ja'il. Indeed, I am. Indeed, I. This is indeed I. Inna plus ya. Indeed, I. Ja'il. One who. One who makes. Because ja'ala is to make. One who makes. So one who makes. Fil ardi, in the earth, khalifa, from the root khalafa. Okay, khalafa means somebody who comes after. So it's like either successor. Some people say vicegerent. I don't know what that word means. Or representative. What is it? Vicegerent.
Vicegerent, deputy, successor. He has a lot of words.
Lot of words, right?
I think I use the word Khalifa. So Khalifa is known, like, he's the head of the state. Or
so, successor is one that's very good to remember. Khalafa. Khalafa means that comes after somebody else. So successor. But it doesn't make the. I was going to put that, but it doesn't make the most sense in this context because, I mean, successor to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the earth. It doesn't make sense, you know. So that's why we representative or vicegerent or whatever. You can put successor because we're doing again word to word translation. But again, you can see how word meaning evolved over time in Arabic language. Qalu. So who is this qalu? They said. And notice masculine. They masculine said. Atajalu. We had this also. Do you? Do. Yes or no question. Yes or no question. Right? Yes or no question. Atajalu. Do you make? Or put. Ja'ala also means put. Ja'alu asabiyahum fi adhanihim min as-sawa'iqi hadar al-maut. We had that, remember? How do you say somebody puts their finger in their ear? Ja'ala asabiyahum fi adhanihim. Putting their fingers in their ear. So the same. One who make or put. So you can say one who put, and that's also correct. One who puts. So they say, do you put fiha in it? Man yufsidu fiha. Who? This is not a question word. This is a ism mawsul. So it means who. It actually means who still, but it's not who. Like who is this? It's do you put somebody who exactly like that? Do you put somebody who will do such and such a thing? They're not asking a question. The question is here. Atajalu fiha man yufsidu fiha. Do you put somebody who is the same in English? Who can be used as a question? Who can be used as a connector, like of a phrase or clause? Do you put somebody in it who yufsidu makes spreads mischief in it? Wa yasfiku dima. Both of these are new words. Yasfika means to shed. Dima means blood. So one who will shed blood. So the angels, they knew a few things. Yasfiku dima. And in contrast to what they say that human beings are, yufsidu and yasfiku dima, contrast that with وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ versus the angels, we nusabbihu, meaning do tasbih, or we glorify. This translated as we glorify, tasbih. We glorify bihamdika with your praise. Again, this is ownership. This ka is attached pronoun of ownership because attached to a noun. It's attached to an ism. Remember, you can attach it to ism, fi'l, or harf. If you attach it to, which are the three types of, what are the three types of words? Ism, fi'l, harf. If you attach it to a fi'l, receive the action of the verb. It's an object. If you attach it to a harf, it receives the action of the harf. So, I went to you. I went to you. And then hamdika is ownership when you attach to ism. So we glorify with your praise, وَنُقَدِّسُ, and we sanctify. Okay? It's a confusing word. What it means though, Quddus is like holy. So something that's sanctified. Okay? Muqaddas, exactly. So it's better, it's easier even to just think of it in terms of Arabic and Urdu without even going to the English, because there's no real word for qadasa or muqaddas or any related word. But the closest is sanctify. We sanctify lak. It means we sanctify you, but literally it's to you or for you. Qala inni, then this is referring to Allah. He said, indeed I, a'lamu, I know. So there's I here, indeed I, because of the ya, and then I'm putting I know again because a'lamu means I know. I know. Ma la, what not, ta'lamu, you know. So I know what you don't know. Okay, and as a cliffhanger, inshallah we'll stop there. Okay.
A'lamu, alif, what? It's
I, it means I. So versus ya'lamuna, right? Ya'lamuna, they know. Present tense. Present tense, I, for me is a'lam. So a'lam, a different word. Aktub, I write. You can have a different word. Asfiku, I shed. Asfiku versus what was it? Tajalu fiha ma yusidu fiha wa yasfiku. Yasfiku is he sheds. Asfiku, I shed. Yasfikuna, they shed. So all these are present tense verbs. And I know it's difficult because we didn't discuss the tenses yet. That's in unit 2. But we just have to kind of memorize what it means. Yeah.
ahya.
Ahya, okay, very, very good question. I was worrying about this question because this will confuse you even more. So I won't record this. I'll answer it after I finish the recording. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.